Good evening, and welcome to another fiscally irresponsible episode of Diatribes from the Voice of Doom. And here is that wastrel and spendthrift host, Voice of Doom. Thank you, Mr. Announcer. Okay, I'm not that bad. But I was going to do a boring diatribe, and I'm back on giving myself a bit of the grape, because I haven't been drinking it in a long time, just because I kind of drank it every day and it got too much. But I think I could have one glass full without my body rejecting it. And I'm going to try to be lucid. Get a little into the weeds bit, but before I do that, I will say one thing. So everybody's talking about this election in Virginia, and it's going to be a bellwether for the Republicans when they take over a state that was previously blue and now. First of all, as if the Republicans are going to do anything, even if they do get in power. I mean, they won't do anything, and they won't be able to do anything, even if they wanted to. So forget that. But I find it disturbing to my psyche that there would even be a choice, that anybody would even bat an eye. From my perspective. Other people see things differently, and it's like, okay, I'm going to vote for the other side. And it's like, is it just pure partisan? Because a certain half of the tribal whatever wigwam are insane. And they keep getting more insane every day. And I'm just waiting for the news to come on tomorrow morning so I can see what more insanity happened over in Scotland or wherever the hell he is. But I wanted to comment on this McAuliffe-Yunkin feud and how it's going to be a bellwether, and it's so sad to say that they're going to vote in the D. The D, in parentheses, is going to be voted in. And that's going to be disturbing for many people, because it's going to be like, how can that happen? After all that's happened, people aren't seeing things the same way I am. I might be insane, but I think it's going to happen because they cheat. And they're good at cheating, and when they can't get away with their cheating, they go to court to get the votes that they cheated for. So they're very good at that, and the Republicans are namby-pamby dipweeds who want to do everything by the book because Nixon was so bad, we got to clean up our image. Give me a break. So simple. I'm going to talk about something a little more boring and terrifying. Well, first I'll give you the background. I just wanted to do a thing because I wanted to help Petri Dish because he's in a bind. He can't figure out what to do. I mean, well, he's going to do it. He's going to do it all wrong. But the point is I can't find my... Okay, here we go. I want to help him with the 3.5 trillion because I realized that it can be gotten. The money is there. He can get it without raising the debt one bit. But before I, wanted to submit my plan to the cabal, I wanted to give you a few things. First of all, 28 trillion and change is where we're at right now. Decided to just check out the national debt because it's kind of nice to have, data so you can act like you're one of those guys on Fox that all the, data. And I just kind of throw it in there. I know I'm ridiculous. Personal debt, 21.7 trillion, so all the debts of all people like me who've contributed highly to this totals 21, almost the same as the national debt. Now, I didn't look at the rate of speed of how it's going up on the personal debt, but I did do it on the national debt. And it was interesting. Before I tell you that, I'll give you a few more things. You don't have to write it down. It's ridiculous. We owe China 340 billion, 340.7 billion. So that's really not that bad. That's chump change. That's the same amount we spend on Medicare or Social Security every year. That'll keep going up with compound, whatever. Trade deficit 1.043 trillion. I never understood trade deficits. I'm just trying to understand national debts. Interest in debt 415.8 billion. So that's the interest we pay. That sounds about right, according to the book I read like 30 years ago about how the economy was going to do. Is just exactly this. Like 1/3 of the GDP goes to the interest on the debt. I'm going to get, because I've been into this for a while, debt to GDP ratio in 1960. Oh, this was the worst one, and I skipped it almost. Deficit is 2.956 trillion. That's the budget deficit. So, they were talking about trillion-dollar deficits. Well, we've gone past that. Now, debt to GDP ratio, that means how much we owe compared to how much we bring in. 60s, it was 52%. Because we had a war and they were trying to do all these social BSs with LBJ. In the 80s, it was 34%. Maybe because of Reagan, but, just different. We got it where we were very productive. 2000, it was 55%, and today it is 126%, which means the debt is 126% of the gross domestic product in the United States. So if you took all that in, you'd realize that we're doomed. And that's on top of whatever's going on that everybody thinks is a big hullabaloo. Open borders with anything happening with anybody. And a lot of countries in turmoil and a lot of trouble with germs and trouble with how to deal with the germs, which is turning into a big problem, in case you haven't noticed. Now, before I tell you the answer that I can give to Petrie when he gets back from Scotland, which I wish he would not. I wish he would just find a castle up in northern Scotland and spend the rest of his days in seclusion. It'd be very nice for everybody. I had to learn my long division. I don't know if you can see all this. Just holding it up. From 4th grade, because I was trying to figure out the rate of debt. And every 30 seconds, the debt goes up by $1 million every 30 seconds. So that means that I can't even read it now. I was hoping to do this good, but the bottom line is it'll be like every 700 days. At the rate we're going, it'll go up another trillion, which is less than 2 years, but I have a feeling the rate's going to go higher. It's something like, I don't want to get boring. Like 500 minutes, for $1 billion. But the trillion takes a little less than 2 years. So it'll be up to 30 trillion. It's going to be soon, really. So I wanted to help him, and I thought, well, this is a good way because there's a lot of money out there. The top 1%, their average income is 10 to 11 million. And that's just income, but most of the top 1%, if you break it down into the nitty, 1 million of them make 400K and up. So they're 400,000, which Petrie was talking about, and up. There's a million. There's only 25 people in the country that make 1 billion yearly. So when you talk billions and we talk about a $28 trillion debt or 3.5 trillion framework, they call that now. What it boils down to is you can't base it on income. You got to base it on net worth, because the top 1% is worth 41.52 trillion. So you simply tax all the super rich people that make $400,000 and up, tax them 10% of everything they're worth every year. First year they'd make $4.1 trillion that they could spend any way they want to. And then hopefully those guys get back to work, because they got to make up for that, because they're going to be taxed another 10% on their net worth every year. And that will be fine. That will pay for everything. That will be more than enough money. They can maybe even get a rebate, get a tax refund. But that's my plan for Petrie. I'm going to submit it to him when he gets back. One other thing I was going to say about that was, just a sec. What was I going to say? I was going to say that they won't have much recourse. All they have to do is just, do an assessment of everything. How many houses do they have? What's it worth this year? What was it worth at the highest point of the year? And that's why I like Petrie's idea of, taxing people on unrealized gains, on capital gains. That's good, because kind of getting it ahead of time, and then it's good for them because they have less net worth. So 41.52 trillion is what the top 1% are worth, and if you just take 10% of that, there you have it. So I've solved all of our economic problems. I'm kind of proud. And I'm not totally lucid, but I think this was a good one. So I'm going to leave it at that. It was a little Fist-cal responsibility to offer my 2 cents. And that's about what $1 million is going to be worth soon. And I'll leave it at that, because I really don't know anything about economics. I'll do another one on something else later. Have a good night.